Awesome. I think we are live now on our various social media channels. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us for today's session on AI in 2026, how to build a future-ready business. My name is Andrew Wall. I'm the managing partner here at CPA for IT. I'm joined by my colleague Kasim, who is an IT guru who has been leading a lot of the AI initiatives within our firm. So we're really excited to talk to you guys about AI. I know it's all that seems to be playing on the radio these days is AI, 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 and that it can be overwhelming for some people who are not as into technology as Kasim and myself. And so we thought we'd just start with a sort of good old-fashioned sort of podcast style conversation to talk about how we're using AI for ourselves and how you can consider using AI for your businesses, whether you be another accountant, another bookkeeper, a small business owner, an independent consultant. I think there's tremendous value in how AI can help you to grow as an individual. One of my favorite quotes is from Kent McRae, the son of the founder of Procon, who said AI is like a bicycle for your mind. It allows you to go faster. It doesn't. It requires you to pedal in order to get you where you want to go. And I think that is absolutely true for AI as it stands today. But with agentic AI on the rise, we're starting to see more and more of the ability to leverage AI to build automations. It's still important to have a human in the loop, and it's important to make sure that you are aware of the security implications of how you're using artificial intelligence. And that's why I thought I would like to start the conversation with a discussion about um, personal identifiable data, how to manage client information if you are looking to use artificial intelligence, and how to do that in a responsible way. Because I know there's people out there that'll tell you there's no way you can do it. I was just literally watching something today that says if you are a Google-based firm, 100% of your emails are being used to train AI, whether you like it or not. It's not an opt-in, opt-out option. Um,
Cool.
if you are on Google, your information is being used to train AI.
That's
Um,
scary.
that is a little bit scary. I mean, we've always told clients that email is not secure, and not to send any personal identifiable data via email. That just underscores that point. That's why we do use platforms like Lisio for communication. I know Lisio is not everybody's cup of tea, and we are considering migrating off of that platform, to be honest, because we have heard feedback. We're just trying to find a way to be able to communicate effectively in a non-siloed platform. Problem with email is it's very siloed. If you send an email to me, Kasim hasn't received it, or no one else in my team has received it. So we're trying to manage communication in a way that is secure, shareable amongst our organization, and yet user-friendly for our customers. Um, but that is why, using something other than email to communicate with financial professionals is absolutely imperative. Whether you're using some form of secure Dropbox, there's a number of choices out there, um, to something like Lisio or Carbon or another tool that is available to do that. That is important. So there are ways to use AI safely and securely. So we are a Microsoft shop as opposed to a Google shop. Um, so what we've chosen for any of the AI automations that we are working on, we are doing them all within the Microsoft environment and their Copilot Studio, which ensures that none of our data will be used for AI training, and that it meets the same robust security as all of the other data that we use in SharePoint,
Yep.
Outlook, Teams, all that other messaging and communication, which, um, we don't entirely trust Microsoft, and we do have other multi-factor authentication layers on top of Microsoft. But we know that everything within our Microsoft environment, if it is safe and secure for sharing and exchanging personal identifiable data, and meets a very robust security protocol. Now I
Mm-hmm.
know we have security IT guys on the network who, if you've got insights and wisdom you can share with us on how we can make our clients' data even more secure, we're more than open for it. But I think it's imperative to start with a conversation about that because if you are using the free versions of Chat GPT or you are using products like Google or any other products, it's important to understand their end user licensing agreements to understand how they're going to be using your data so that you can be conscious about what data you provide to artificial intelligence. Because what anyone who's played around with artificial intelligence knows, particularly when we talk about large language models, which is a specific subset of artificial intelligence, we know that context is king and that the more information that you can provide to the AI, the better the responses that you're going to get out of it. But if you are using a free version of ChatGPT, you want to be careful about providing in any of your financial information, at least in at least in a way that has been removed of any personal identifiable data. There's still ways
Yeah.
to upload reports, right, Kasim, and share information with it, just making sure it's depersonalized first. And there's a tremendous amount of value that you can drive out of these large language models. Um, working as a business mentor, as a coach, helping you to identify areas and opportunities within your business where you can, grow and thrive. And it's immensely valuable as that. And I think that
Uh, I think we are losing Andrew.
my perspective on the way the majority am I still here? It's still
Yeah, you're lagging a bit, but you're here now. Yeah, go ahead.
okay. All right, yeah. I got a message that my internet is unstable. I think I'm running too much technology. I don't think it's my internet. So I got three screens going on. I got OBS going on. I got,
Overloaded by
yeah,
technology.
overload on too crazy a camera and that can hog a lot of bandwidth. I gotta maybe go to a lower quality, eliminate 4K. Um, but I think there's two ways that people are using artificial intelligence right now, at least, for the average person. One, they're either using large language models like ChatGPT or any of the other. I mean, I think that's the most well-known one, but there's ones from Anthropic, Claude,
Gemini, yeah.
Google, Gemini. Yeah, there's a slew of them out there. And, there arguably some are better than others for doing different things. I'm not even going to pretend to tell you which one you should be using, but you should be using one. And they're using it to ask questions and get answers, which is somewhat helpful. Um, and the other way that they're using it is built in natively into apps that they use every day. So, for example, QuickBooks Online has used artificial intelligence for years. Now they've recently launched more agents into their platform and are adding more and more AI. You're seeing this built into Microsoft with the ability to analyze meetings and to review emails. There's, pretty much a million and one tools to, rewrite an email for you and redraft an email for you. We are huge fans of Read AI, which allows us to summarize meetings to be able to go back and analyze that information. And there are amazing technologies that have AI built into them. And I think that that's the real way that most people are leveraging artificial intelligence right now. Um, but I would argue that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity um, going into 2026 for leveraging AI in ways that you can help with automation and workflow automation. And I wanted
Yeah.
to talk through and share with you guys some of the ways that we're doing that. So one of the tools that we've implemented for our sales team is we have a web form that our sales team will complete as they go through an initial consultation with a customer. We then take that information out of that and we analyze the information to better understand the client's individual needs and to provide some feedback to our sales team on how they can best approach and work with this customer to solve their individual needs, because that's ultimately what we're here for.
Yeah.
That helped. It did improve our retention policy, or our close ratio is probably a better what it helped to improve. But it was a micro improvement, I would say. It definitely added value, but it wasn't a grand slam fundamental change in our sales process. What we did do later that was a massive improvement is we took transcripts from the initial
Yeah.
consultations and we used AI to analyze those transcripts and provide feedback to our sales agents on what they could do to improve their initial consultations. And that made a massive impact. And the feedback from the team was that it was insightful and helpful and valuable. It's like having a coach over your shoulder who's there able to come in once a month, look back at all the conversations that you've had, and be able to analyze that. And we're able to set that up and structure that in a way that is automated so that the team can get feedback, because I don't have time to sit in on every initial consultation with our clients and provide insights and guidance on ways that they can improve. So this has done a great job for helping our sales team, who often, at least in our organization, have to wear many hats, and they weren't necessarily born salespeople. They're doing the best they can in the environment where they have to handle multiple jobs and roles, because we are a small organization. And I think that that's one of the things
Yeah.
that I'm most excited about is how AI can help small businesses.
Mhm.
Now, Kasim, I realize I'm stealing all the bandwidth here.
No,
But
I mean, yeah, like I think you've summarized it very accurately, where one of the interesting things actually adding on top of what you said is a lot of people have been using ChatGPT and different LLMs to basically ask questions and perform very, very basic tasks, I would say, like summarize this or do this, do that. Now, I do know some programmers use ChatGPT a lot or other LLMs to help them, with their programming, but it's not something, it's not something that makes a very, very huge difference. It definitely helps out as an assistant, right? Now, one of the things which a trend which we're seeing in 2026, and I think which is going to be massive, is that these AI agents are going to move from being LLM agents towards more agentic agents, which means
yes.
is that while yes, they'll be able to answer questions and summarize transcripts or whatever, they'll be able to perform actions for you, which I think it's going to be a very huge shift in the industry, because what people are going to start using these AI tools for are to perform tasks that they used to perform before manually, right? Which I think is going to be a very, very major shift, and it's going to be huge because and this is something we're actually currently we have a lot of things in production right now where we are using MCP servers with the tools that we're using. Now, I won't get into a lot of details about what MCP servers are or how they work technically, but to sort of
Well,
break it down.
let
Mhm.
me yeah, give a layman's
Sure.
explanation.
Yeah.
An MCP server, for anyone who's familiar with any tools like Zapier or Make,
Yeah.
which I call middleware software, which allow you to connect to softwares that have an API, an application programming interface,
Yeah.
to be able to connect with those and transfer information from one platform to another without needing to know coding or develop, code that to connect to these APIs. So they provide a way for you to access these tools that have published APIs or application programming interfaces, a way to communicate with their back end without needing to know code. What an MCP server does is it's just like that. It does that same middleware operation, but not for you as an individual who's going to write these little, visual
API
based
calls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't need to know code, but you still have to build this structure and logic. With MCP servers, this is for how AI can communicate with any of these open APIs that you have access to. Now, we've learned firsthand it's not quite as cut and dry as say, here's an MCP server, please connect. It is
Yeah.
you have to provide some context on how to use the API calls. Uh, but we have successfully launched an AI voice agent that we are using now for outbound communication with clients. We do not provide that agent. We're using a tool called 11 Labs to,
Yeah.
to build that agent. It is connected with an MCP server to be able to connect to our CRM so that the context of that communication can be stored and saved in our CRM so that everyone in our organization can have access to that conversation, as well as to drive tasks for the team members. So if you're talking to a voice agent and you say, hey, can you get me this? Even if the voice agent isn't able currently to go and download that for you, although we are working on something like that. um, not functional yet, but we are.
Spoiler
Yeah,
alert. But yeah.
yeah. Spoiler alert. We are trying to build that capability because that's what we get requests all the time. Hey, can you send me my notice of assessment? Can you send me my tax
Yeah.
return? And we want to be able to make that as easy as possible for you to just pick up the phone and be like, hey, algorithm, can you please send me my T2 notice of assessment from 2021? Right. And then be
Exactly.
able to go out and do that. Right now, it doesn't have that capability. But what you can do is you can say, hey, algorithm, can you send me that? And it will create a task for someone in our organization to be able to go and do that. And what we're
Yeah.
doing right now is simply providing it the information of what we are requesting from the customer and just making the phone call to the customer, explaining it in layman's term what exactly we're looking for, able to ask and answer questions about that information. And that enables us to deliver a higher level of service without having to raise the cost.
Yeah.
We would love to be able to call everyone, and we've done that in the past. But what we find is we spend a lot of time getting voicemails, not getting any responses, and having to charge you for that time.
Yeah.
So this is a way for us to be able to do that without having to raise your bill and add more value to you. And I mean, I should have played the clip from
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
from one of our clients who was like, um, he had a technology, the screening technology. So he can screen who he accepts calls from, and he realized it was coming from our firm, and he picked it up. But that screening technology creates a bit of delay, and our voice agent, the first thing it says is, "Hi, I'm Algorithm, a voice agent from CPA for IT." We want to make it very clear this is not a person, this is an AI voice agent. But he missed that, and he thought it was me because it's my voice. And it dawned on him at about 20 to 30 seconds in that this was an AI agent, and he just explodes in laughter. He's like, this is amazing. This is so
Yeah.
smooth. I can't believe it. And he starts asking it questions, and the AI is answering the questions. And, exciting to see that. And I know that um, certainly not everyone is as gung ho about artificial intelligence as I am. And I do see the fear and the issues that around false data that can come out of
Yeah.
it, and that there has to be a human in the loop. Is the terminology that seems to be popular these days, and we are making sure to do that. We are checking in on these phone calls to make sure that they're following the processes. We're monitoring them very closely, but
Yeah.
we're quite satisfied with the results that we've seen and the ability to interact with our MCP servers. Now, like I said, at the moment, that interaction is very, very narrow in what it can do. But we're excited to open that up as we can open it up in a safe and secure fashion. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and hopefully, those of you who are with us recognize that we are a technology forward accounting firm. We always will
Yeah.
be. My father was before me. He always believed in technology. He always believed in systems, process, and automation. And fundamentally, that is key to us being able to serve the clients that we do. Um,
Yeah.
I know of another accounting firm who was trying to work with the same client base that we had, IT consultants, and who fundamentally just said, forget it, because they'd had a very large client base with doctors. And they basically said, you know what? These IT consultants, they are Um, Too much work for the amount of value that we can drive out of it. We're out. Are you interested? Um, and and so what we have learned is in order to be to provide high levels of service, which we are very adamant that we have the quality control, and I'm very proud of the quality control processes that we have in place. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we do have a very high quality control process, and we do go above and beyond what a guy working out of his basement would do, which is basically take your numbers, put them in a tax return, and file them.
Yeah.
We do a lot more than that. We do our benchmarking analysis. We have peer reviews and senior account manager reviews on every single file to make sure that we're doing the best we can. And we're building in more and more automations and controls to make sure that the quality of the files is unparalleled. One of the ways that we've used artificial intelligence is one of the things we do is when we send out reports to yourselves, um, we want to make sure that they have been signed already by our accounting team, and we tried to use OCR to be able to look at the document to see if the signature was there. Just was would not work. And so this was a place where we were able to leverage artificial intelligence within the Copilot environment in a safe and secure way to make sure that the documents are trusted and secure. Uh, is there capability for being able to do financial analysis? Absolutely, but I think it's very early yet, and we are excited to bring that out and make that available to our clients once we feel that it is able to do it in a safe and controlled way. So we're definitely. I'm attending every session that I can on artificial intelligence. I'm listening. I'm learning, and doing my best to bring that technology over to our client base because we, as I said earlier, are always going to be a technology forward accounting firm. And we just are fortunate to be in this time where technology is changing uh, so dramatically.
Yeah. And actually I think that's one of the challenges we encounter a lot is that we want to build a lot of things technology because we're connected with technology and we try to keep up to date as much as we can in terms of what's changing, what are the updates that are coming out. And sometimes we want to build a lot of things out, but sometimes we're just limited by the fact that, hey, how do we make it more secure? How do we stay compliant with all of the data privacy and security standards? Because obviously that's a big onus on us is to ensure that whatever data that we're using is completely depersonalized so that it's not in any shape, way, or form used to train any model on the back end, right? So yeah, but that being said, we've still been able to, as Andrew has explained, we've still been able to achieve a lot of cool things, and we're all constantly working on innovating, improving the processes that we have, and building more stuff on top of it. One of the advices that I give to small business owners who, try to approach me and ask me, "Hey, what's your one tip for AI?" is I always try to tell them that, hey, my biggest tip for AI is to leverage all the AI in all the tools that you're using right now. Because trust me, in whatever tools you're using, there's some AI functionality in there right now which you're probably not using and you can use, and it will make your life a lot more easier, right? For example, if you're Canva users and you do graphic designing on Canva, they have a big suite of AI tools that can make your life infinitely more easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as Andrew said, like with QuickBooks, for example, they have AI, a lot of AI capabilities, and
Which with some mixed reviews.
with some mixed reviews, sure, but and yeah, and like even in the Microsoft shop, like we're a Microsoft shop company, and Copilot is something which has made my life very, very easy because and it's within our system, it's within our shop, so it's very easy to use it. And you can literally, in your Teams meetings, if you have a Copilot license within your environment, you can use it to go back to different meetings, ask it to summarize transcripts, And within a meeting, you can ask it, okay, what happened 30 minutes ago, whatever, if you're sleeping in on the meeting. There's some people who do that. So maybe get Copilot for that. So yeah, that I think that is a very good starting point, is to just play with the tools that you're using right now, see what AI capabilities they have, and then go from there. Try to use them to, because while ChatGPT, Gemini, all these things are great, they're amazing, right? The thing is that they still are a general purpose LLM. So the AI agent developed by that specific tool, for example, the AI agent developed by Canva, is going to be infinitely more better for Canva than any other software, right? As opposed to, yes, ChatGPT can give me good answers and can help me out, but it's not specifically tailored for that specific tool, right? So that I think is very, very important. And one other thing, another trend that we're seeing for 2026, is a lot of the tools that you're using now, whether it's, practice management or CRMs or ERPs or whatever it is, a lot of them have started opening up their API interfaces to developers. So they're becoming more developer friendly. And going back to what Andrew said about MCP servers, is it's going to be very easy to integrate them with AI agents now. And that is, that is, I think, is going to be a critical turning factor, because I think ChatGPT brought in a lot of wave of people, and people started using it and they were very impressed by all the capabilities. And then sort of it sort of went stagnant, where yes, people now are, some people are happy about it, some people are not too happy about it. But I think when agentic AI is going to become mainstream, which it's going there, we have developed AI agents which are, performing these actions. When it starts going mainstream, I think that's going to be another tipping point where a lot of people who were on the fence are gonna, sort of jump in and start using it. So yeah, and I think the important part of making sure that you're set up for success is you have a clear path, and you have clear data. You have clear data that you want to use to be able to perform whatever AI analysis that you want to do, right? For example, Andrew, maybe we can talk about some data which, for sales, for example, which people already have, that they're not necessarily using right now in LLMs like ChatGPT, which they can use, right? For example, one of the most important ones that we found in our firm, as Andrew mentioned before, was transcripts, which you're probably using an AI agent to transcribe your initial consultations, right? So just throw that in there into ChatGPT or whatever LLM you're using, and it'll help you out. Maybe close ratios,
Yeah. Now,
um,
sorry to interject there. I mean, one of the things that I know, like, and this is something I got feedback even from my own kids, is for people who struggle to leverage AI to its fullest, they often say, well, the responses I get back from AI are generic, and not helpful,
yeah,
or just complete BS. So I think one of the things, like, and this is somewhat rudimentary. Prompt engineering has been around now 3 years. The
yeah,
concept is not new, but it's still massively, massively important. Now, what's great that's changed is the memory within the conversations and the ability to use projects. At least that's what ChatGPT calls them. I can't remember. Claude calls them something else, but it's the same idea of where you can have a conversation about one specific area, and it remembers that conversation. And as you go through, I want you to think of it as an iterative process, right? Where you're refining and improving that prompt, and it's getting better and better and better and better. I know there's a lot of people out there trying to sell, prepackaged prompt lists. Those are bullshit, pardon my language, and useless. It's about iteration and refining it and providing more clarity to the agent and more information to the LLM so that it can provide a better answer for you. If you just say, "Hey, how can I automate my business?" Yes, you are going to get a very generic and very useless response. Now, if you start providing it context about the nature of your business, the size of your business, the number of employees. And we do stuff so far as like even annual reviews that we do with our team members are done in a project so that we can have all of that conversation there so that the AI has access to that information so it has more insights so that we can, when we do our things like our quarterly rocks, we just did a quarterly rocks, which is an EOS methodology. So we did our quarterly rocks thing and I threw it in there and had it analyze that and be like, are these the right rocks for this quarter? Are we on the right path? And because now it has context of my employees and their performance reviews and what they're good at and what they're not good at, it helps me to identify better goals and objectives for each quarter for each of those employees.
Absolutely.
And I think there's immense power in leveraging these large language models to help you with your business, but it's garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
So, because
100%. Yeah. I couldn't agree more because um and this is something which is very funny is because um it's like how people one of the biggest shift I guess from using from going from Google towards ChatGPT is when I used to use Google, it was that I used to write in very short phrases. Okay, I have a problem. I'm going to type in 3 words, and usually that used to help me get to an article that I wanted to, and then I used to read the article. And my brain was sort of hardwired in a way is to not type out a lot, just give it a few words, and then it worked. But when we shifted to ChatGPT, I kind of had to rewire my brain. And as opposed to giving it 3 words, which I used to before, I had to give it a lot of context to be able to get a good answer out. Because, for example, I'm developing something in Power Automate, and I say, "Hey, ChatGPT, I'm running into issues while developing this program in Power Automate." That's actually, believe it or not, that's not going to give you a good answer because you're not telling it what kind of version you're using of Power Automate. You're not telling it if you're on the cloud, if you're on the desktop. You're not telling you what exact error you're getting. You're not telling it what code you're using, what methodology you're using. So like that's very important is to give it context, right? And to going back to like using your AI agents for different roles, like for example as a sales analyst, I couldn't agree more with Andrew's point is create projects within your LLM, like create a sales a project and make sure that it has all the data that you need to give it. And then a month later down the line, you can, in your annual review or in your any meeting, whatever, you can just go back and look at the data. And I think that's where we're heading is believe it or not, I think we're heading to a point where we're gonna see less and less dashboards, and it's more and more gonna be data integrated somewhere inside an AI agent where you can ask for the agent to develop dashboards on the fly, custom data which you might need this one time, but you don't want to see it on a recurring basis. So yeah, I think I agree with that. I think that is very, very important is to give it context and be very precise about what you're asking and constantly iterate through the conversation.
yeah, and it's okay to start with like just a one-liner as a starting point.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
you recognize that the answer you're going to get back with a one-liner is going to be generic. And I'm not saying all these prompt packages are terrible. They're probably a good starting point for initiating the conversation. But I want to think you to think about these as ongoing conversations, not come in, ask like it's not a search engine. It's
Yeah.
transitioning from that mindset of a search engine to a partner who is there to assist you, who is going to remember this conversation
Yeah.
and going back to projects or even saved conversations to add more context or now that you have more data to provide it because time has passed and you can
Yeah.
give it insights into and it can start giving you feedback on well we can see it worked here it didn't work there, maybe we can refine our plan and our path, and that data is key. And certainly you could sit back and be like, you know what? I'll use an LLM like ChatGPT and I'll wait for tools, but I have no interest in learning how I can leverage AI to be a more profitable independent contractor, a more effective programmer, or a more effective accountant or bookkeeper. That's fine, but you will reap the consequences of those choices down the road. because, well, AI is not going to take anyone's jobs. People leveraging AI absolutely will. And,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
my mom thinks I'm a doomsday guy and, maybe a little too pessimistic. But I'm one of the few people out there saying AI will take jobs. I'm 100% certain of it. I've seen the capabilities of what it can do. I've also seen firsthand feedback from HR managers that are being told that if they cannot prove the role requires a human, they're not getting the headcount for those departments. Uh, so at the end of the day, you have a choice to make. Am I going to adapt to the facts of where our world is today and embrace the new technology? Or am I going to be a laggard and rely on other people to implement the technology and hey, I'll use it in the tools and I'll do the bare minimum and get by? Then you're going to be at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to who's getting renewed for their contract or who's uh, are at the top of the bottom pole for who's getting canned at the next round of layoffs because we're going to see more layoffs. I can guarantee you that this technology is going to mean that if that analogy that Kent said, which is that it's a bicycle for your mind and it makes you 5 times faster, if you can do five times the amount of work, businesses are going to at least cut one more person. They may not cut five. Maybe they'll, try to reap the rewards of that because now they can offer more and do more.
Yeah.
But if they can cut costs, they will. They have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to be as profitable as they possibly can. So if they can do this with less people, they will. And while I'm not saying that AI on its own, without a human in the loop, has that capability, the reality is that if a person is 5 times more effective with AI on their side, they don't need 5 people anymore. At best, they need four or three. At best. And that's with massive improvements in productivity and their ability to deliver more for their clients. But I will belabor that point because I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. I've been asked not to speak at conferences as a result of sharing that insight because people have said they don't want to hear it. And you may not want to hear it, but it doesn't make it any less true.
I think
Unfortunately.
I think the issue is when people don't want to hear it and they're sort of defensive about it, is I think at its core, the reason is that they don't know the capability of AI yet. Because the reason why, Andrew says this, and I sort of share a similar point of view. I actually think the combination of AI, RPA, which is robotic process automation, and API, which is application
Yes.
programming interface. The companies will be able to integrate these three elements and create a system out of it. I think those systems will definitely replace people. There's no question about it. I think the reason why people get defensive about it is because they don't know its capability because we've seen firsthand, we've built systems firsthand, we've built automations firsthand where we've seen save hundreds and hundreds of hours of manual work, right? Now, while yes, that definitely helps out in, freeing up the time of the staff to, do focus on more productive things, and offer more to clients and offer a higher level of service. But I think people really need to start sort of getting on board that train and really start leveraging AI into their own processes so that ultimately tomorrow they can keep up, right? And the biggest example, so this is the micro level. I'll give you guys a macro example, which is Apple. So Apple's Apple Intelligence is shit, for the lack of a better word. Apologies. It's very bad, right?
Yeah.
Now, they could have done it the Apple way, where they could have because the usual Apple way is to just do R&D for 4 or 5 years, and then once their competition releases a product, they come in 4 or 5 years later after all the R&D, and then they come up with something good, and that all works for them, right? For AI, for Apple Intelligence, they couldn't afford that. They rushed it. They came up with a very, very bad product, and now I believe they're partnering up with Google to integrate Gemini into their Apple Intelligence. So a $1 trillion company like Apple is also afraid of being left behind on the AI bandwagon, where to the point where they now have to collaborate with their biggest competitor to keep up in the AI race. And that should really tell people a lot. Is It's here to stay, and the people who just don't get on board and just think of it as a fad and don't use it to make their processes more efficient, they are ultimately going to suffer. Maybe it's not today, maybe it's not tomorrow, but definitely, like sooner than later, it's gonna happen.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. So maybe we should start with some insights on. So people are now maybe a little bit more excited about it, and they want to start leveraging AI to help them with their automations and their workflows. First of all, I guess to step back. Obviously, you know this, but I'll reiterate it for the audience. I absolutely concur. I think it's not just about AI. Just like it wasn't just about RPA, just like it wasn't about just about Zapier and Make when we had those automations. It's in bringing the right pieces of technology together and how they interact seamlessly. And so for us, that very much is robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, and API calls. API calls, if we can use those are the way we want to go every day of the week, because those are stable and reliable connections. But unfortunately, they're somewhat limited. This means that you have to have the software actually has to have built this API, and it's usually quite limited in what its capabilities are. But if they're there, you want to use that. And what I can tell you is, even for ourselves, the first time we started building out uh, API based automations, we didn't know what the freak we were doing. We used AI to help us learn how to build APIs and how to write the code to be able to do the interactions with the application programming interfaces. And well, I had some technology background, and Kasim had some technology. Neither one of us had ever built an API call before in our life.
Yeah.
And we were able to do it. I think the first one less than a week, right? We had something up and running.
Oh
Um,
yeah, within a week, yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I think probably a day for an MVP, but like tested and deployed about a week.
Yeah.
And be able to have those, which one run more reliably, but also faster, which is a huge win. And that's what we're finding right now for ourselves and for many businesses out there, is that if you're not, a big four accounting firm with a massive, very expensive ERP system, you're dealing with pieces of technology all over the place. Right? You got Lissia, you got Outlook, you got ShareFile, you got SharePoint, you got
Yeah.
Casery, you got Profile, you got a billion and one pieces of technology and different pieces in your time and billing system, in your CRM system. And because you don't have a massive ERP system, getting these tools to talk to each other can be difficult. And APIs are a great way to do that if you have that capability. But Lisio, perfect example, no APIs for that software
Yeah.
whatsoever. Yeah. So we had to leverage robotic process automation. Well, what happens? We've got a process that requires some decision, like, does this document contain a signature? Are there ways to automate to be able to check that and ensure with certainty that it does that this document has been signed? And
I think we
and
probably
that's where
lost.
tools like artificial intelligence can come into play. And I think that
Yeah, I think Andrew's probably having some issues with his internet connection. But but yeah, sort of continuing his point, it is absolutely very important to integrate all the systems because um each system in and of itself has limitations, right? Like we know that robotic process automation has limitations. We know that AI itself has limitations, and we know that API itself, as Andrew just explained, there might not be an API for what you're trying to do, right? It just might not exist. So there you go. He's back. Okay. Yeah, but if you combine them all together, they cover each other's limitations, and that's when you're able to create an extremely strong product, which basically the possibilities then become sort of endless. Yep.
absolutely. And just to prove how much, I love technology and AI, I've got it built into my glasses, which some people hate. But I love. And in fact, I actually have two pairs because I
How
can't
about
see. Well, these are my reading glasses, and these are my distance glasses. And reading glasses are on the battery, but these ones work. So say hello, everyone.
there you go. Yeah,
Hey,
I'm
Meta,
still
what do you think of
behind.
this?
I'm still
Uh,
behind. I still have regular glasses, unfortunately. But
we gotta get some CPA for IT branded Meta glasses. I think that should be our brand swag.
absolutely represent.
Uh, yeah. But anyways, I mean, look, I know this is not our normal accounting content. But obviously, you know that as a technology firm, we're always playing with technology. We love this. We wanted to share our experiences because the feedback that I'm hearing around the accounting community for sure is that people are overwhelmed by artificial intelligence, and they
Yeah,
know that they
yeah.
need to use it, but they're struggling to figure out how to use it in a meaningful way. So we wanted to open the door and have the conversation. And to that end, I'd love to open it up to any questions for the people who are on the call now. If anyone has any questions or any insights too, because you might be further ahead on this journey than us. We don't,
Absolutely.
we don't claim to be the best in the world. We're just playing with it, and we're exploring the technology, testing its rigors, and seeing where it can add value to our firm. And so far, we are impressed. Very, at least I am impressed. I don't know if you can say the same, Kasim, but I'm impressed.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the challenges that you might encounter, and I think it's very important because for small firms where you have, a few employees, 5, 10, 15, 20 employees, whatever, I think it's very important to not just, maybe not just sort of silo it off, and it shouldn't be just you using these AI tools, or it shouldn't just be, one or two people in your team. I think it's very important to have a conversation with your staff and make it mainstream is get them introduced to these tools which can increase their efficiency, and you can expect pushback. I can guarantee you, we can tell from experience, like your staff might push back from using these tools, but I think it's absolutely important to have a conversation with them and explain to them all the benefits. You can be, it's what we've learned from our experience. What helps us a lot is to actually practically demo a benefit that you can get by using this, whether it's your AI or an RPA tool or whatever it is, right? So if you're able to do that, I think, and if you have a lot of people in your staff sort of, using these tools all across the board, it just compounds that effect. So it's very important to, make it mainstream in your firm as well.
Yeah, and have a policy, an internal policy on AI, an
Yeah.
AI policy. That's I think really important. A guy named Chad Davis gave us that insight. And like make it clear, do you want them using AI or not?
Yeah.
And if they're using AI, what AI platforms are okay to use and what are not? Because, like we said, there are very like if you don't provide the guidance and the structure, they will go off and use AI on their own. So you got
Yeah.
to be aware of that. Now we do have a couple of questions that have come in. I appreciate that. So we'll
Hmm.
start with the first one. Hey guys, thanks for the content today. Any recommendations for places to deepen my learning about this topic? Coursera courses, YouTube channels, just using AI directly to learn about it, starting from scratch here. So I love using AI to learn about it and ask for good YouTube channels to recommend and stuff like that. Like always, great way to have a conversation with AI about how to learn AI. I love that. Within ourselves, within our industry, the accounting profession industry, there's a couple of people who are just fucking knocking it out of the park. Jason Statz, who is an American, who is, I think, an absolute genius when it comes to fintech. Chad Davis up here in Canada, who has a group called Automation Town. Um, those are the guys that I lean onto, and YouTube I love. I think YouTube is great because it's timely. Coursera is hit and miss. I tend to find that usually that's just people selling you crap that you don't really need. And most of the information you will ever need to be able to implement this is available for free. Um, and so don't fall for these coaches and things that you feel like you have to become part of a group. I think there's values to these groups which can provide accountability and support, but I don't think you have to become part of this group to leverage the technology. So YouTube and the AI LLM of choice are great places to start. I also even love TikTok for short snippets. And there's some really interesting people, I can't think of their names off the top of my head, who I do follow on TikTok. But if you just go into TikTok and type in AI, you'll start to see like there's some people that really come up regularly. And one of them I think is Nate. Wears a hat all the time. He's got a beard. I think his stuff is genius. There's another woman, um, who's very insightful. There's a couple of women who are actually really good. And of course, I can't think of any of their names. If I had my TikTok open, I could tell you. But those are great for like short little snippets that will then drive me down a path. And that's a good way I find. Like I love TikTok for staying on top of the changes, because
Yeah.
it's really hard. Like there's a new app every day. What I'll do
Yeah.
is maybe listen to a TikTok that'll do like a 30-second thing on a tool, and then I will go and do a bit of research on that tool to see if that tool is the right fit for our firm. That's how we found out. That's I think how I found out about 11 Labs back in the day, and HeyGen, some other great tools that
Usually you just share the link with me and you're like, what do you think about it?
yeah,
So
yeah, pretty much. Like I
one
always said, I'm sending see
yeah.
TikToks all the time, being
Yeah.
like, and that's how I justify being using TikTok as actually having value in some way, shape, or form. So I hope
Yeah.
that's helpful. I
One
got a
thing,
couple more.
sorry, I would add, Andrew, before you move real
Yeah.
quickly, one thing I would add to Nathan is I think courses don't fall for it. I don't think there's any value. But I think if you want to really get into how to learn AI, I think start with a problem. I think that's very important. Just identify I want to solve this problem using AI and automation, and just go off on YouTube and start looking at automation and AI solutions on that, right? I think that's a very good place to start. If you're sort of flustered with an overload of information, you're getting it from everywhere, just identify the problem and just look for solutions and build something around that
Yeah.
using YouTube or TikTok or whatever, right?
And
That I think
start,
helps out.
I think that's dead on accurate. Start with the jobs you hate doing.
Yeah.
All the work you hate doing,
Yeah,
go do some research on how you can automate that. Because the
absolutely.
work you hate doing gets left to the end of the day if it gets done at all.
Yeah,
And then that will ultimately cause problems. I'm a procrastinator, and as a result, sometimes stuff doesn't get done, and it's usually the stuff I like doing the least. So
yeah,
that to me is where you should start. Now that sort of tailors into the next question, which I think comes from our social media. If someone could only focus on one AI-enabled role in their business this year, sales, finance, or operations, which would you prioritize and why? For me, it would be sales. Sales and marketing, I would sort of bundle those together. And that's because it's the easiest place to start. It's where we started. It's amazing, um, the technology for being able to generate social media content and posts, which I think are very important. It's great for analyzing things like paid advertising,
yeah,
and being able to analyze your ads and your reach. So like we use a number of tools to be able to monitor everything, including engagements and likes and stuff like that. And then we can feed that back into the AI to analyze it, which I think helps. As we talked about, we use it to analyze our sales agents and to give them insights on how they can improve. We use it to analyze our individual leads to be able to
yeah,
see who are the ones that are the hot leads that we should prioritize. And surprisingly, the AI agent came up with a different list of hot leads than our people.
yeah,
Um, and people that are clients, prospects that our sales team didn't think were actually that hot leads. The AI was like, no, this is a hot lead. Go follow
yeah,
up, and inevitably the AI was right. So, if I could only focus on one, it would be that, and that's also because I think when you talk about finance or operations, we're a bit early on agentic AI, which is coming, and for operations, so you're operations is immensely powerful what you can do and what the capability is,
Yeah.
but you're on the bleeding edge of technology here to do
Yeah.
that in a meaningful way. So if I had to choose, it would be sales first because that's where I think you'll get the biggest bang for the buck. And then on finance, the problem with finance is that the propensity to go off script is still
Yeah.
there. And you know, it shows some amazing promise, but in accounting, where 90% accuracy and 90%
Kind of
good
and cut it.
data is
Yeah.
insufficient,
Yeah.
that's why I struggle with using it for finance. Where it can make a play in finance is in very, very constrained operations, right? And what we're big fans of robotic process automation because of its consistency, right?
Yeah.
We know that it's going to do the same thing over and over again. It can't think. It's not like AI, which is a blessing and a curse, right? It's not going to go off script, but it
Yeah.
also can't go off script when it encounters something that it's not able to do. But that's where the power of, like, if you can identify those, use cases, those if scenarios,
Yeah.
that you can be like, okay, I need insight on this, whether that be as simple as like, hey, is there a signature on this document? Because that was stopping our process. Like we literally like couldn't send the documents without confirming that first, which meant at least a 24-hour delay before for someone to look at it and go back to it. And so, well, it wasn't a huge amount of time from billable time perspective. It was a huge amount of elapsed time to get the
Yeah.
files back out. And some of the things that we were focused on at a firm level is how can we complete the files faster and more accurately, right? And we know that speed and accuracy is very important to our customers, but it's got to be balanced against quality control, right? And when we have a team structure as we do, which is important for being able to drive costs down, because if I'm doing all your work, um, one, I'm not sure I'm the best data entry technician. Number two, it's going to be really freaking expensive,
Expensive. Yeah.
right? And so we are constantly, because of the nature of our client base, we're not dealing with firms that we charge $2,000 a month for bookkeeping. I think our highest package is $500 a month, right? So we need to use technology. We need to use, and for us, that started with just using QuickBooks and bank feeds,
Yeah.
and the AI within their tools. And we loved it. And we told you guys about it. We said, hey, use our discount code. Come get it. And I still love those tools and those technologies, even though some of the new AI things need some work. I still think there's no one better to watch when it comes to fintech than Intuit. Maybe Zero. And now Digits is a really interesting one that's coming up. But again, I'm going off on an aside here, which really isn't important. And the real thing is, okay, what are you going to focus in on if you got to choose? For me, it's sales and marketing because that's where I think it's the lowest hanging fruit, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And we got one last question here. How do you measure ROI on AI when the benefit is time saved or better decisions, not direct revenue? Well, I mean, if it's time saved, that's uh, that's direct ROI. Um,
Yeah.
and other ways you can measure it is customer satisfaction. So we have a KPI on customer satisfaction that we use and measure quite actively. You can measure it so customer satisfaction is a really important one. Um, ROI as far as billable time spent by each team member, and are they getting more efficient and more effective, is another way that you can measure that. Um, and then individual growth, right? Like, is the firm actually growing? Are you able to serve more clients with the same number of people, right?
Yeah.
I think those are some critical KPIs to keep an eye out for. Any other insights that you might have on ROIs, Kasim?
I think yeah, it's very important because if you're keeping track of the time spent of your staff, it makes tracking ROI actually much more easier. So I would say break it off, like calculate ROI based on different categories, right? For example, pick a category. I've automated this task, and then either implemented AI or automated this task, and then just do some basic analysis. Okay, what was the time spent by the staff before implementing AI and automation? What's the time spent by the staff after implementing AI and automation? And you also have to factor in the time that took you to build said AI or automation, right? Because if you're spending countless hours trying to learn it and build it and whatever, then the ROI is actually going to be negative. Maybe you're just better off getting a contractor to do it for you in that scenario, right? So
Yes.
the time spent to develop the thing, the time spent by the staff before implementing it, and the time spent by the staff after implementing it, I think those are three key parameters in calculating ROI.
Yeah. And the other thing too is I would say if the only way that your firm is using AI is to allow your team to use a LLM like Copilot or ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, you're not going to get any significant ROI.
Yeah. Yeah,
To be honest, any savings you get will probably be eat up by the cost of the tools. You
yeah,
probably
yeah,
have better, more professional looking emails, which has some particular value, but that's it's not anything that's going to change the value of your firm in any meaningful way.
yeah.
Only once you start to build in practical automations, workflow automations is the key. And workflow automations don't have to include AI, but they now have the ability to
So,
include AI if you can find the right use case. And what I would say is don't feel pressured to have to use AI because if you can solve the problem without using AI, there's nothing wrong with that either. And
sure.
because I know there's an immense amount of pressure to use AI. What I want to replace that with is an immense amount of pressure to understand AI, not
Yeah,
necessarily to use it. Because when you understand it, you might realize it makes sense here, it makes sense here, it does not make sense here,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so I want to apply huge amounts of pressure for people to understand that, and also huge amounts of pressure for our government to understand the implications it's going to have on jobs and the economy. Because I think, yeah, not to be the pessimist, very concerned. Yeah, universal basic income may need to become a thing.
Yep.
Uh, but I will digress on that, and I will also apologize for this terrible cold that I'm having. But that looks like that's our last question, and I think we are actually at time here, Kazim. So, thank you again
Yeah.
for joining me, and sorry if I never shut up. Obviously, I'm clearly very passionate about all this technology. I think that we are very fortunate to live in this era, and I don't think AI is anything. Even though I'm out there saying, "Hey, it's going to take jobs. It's going to have a massive impact on our economy at the macro levels." I also think that the other side of that coin is there is tremendous amount of opportunity for the few of us who are willing to invest the time to learn it, to understand it, and to implement it into our practices. It has a huge opportunity for small businesses. And if you are an IT consultant and you're struggling to figure out how to leverage this, what I can tell you is there is a huge demand, at least in the accounting and bookkeeping world, for people who have technical knowledge, which you do. You have innate programming skills that can be beneficial to implementing an MCP server and connecting it to an AI voice agent, those types of things. That can be immense value. And as there might become shortages from the big firms, like, you know, I'm not even going to name any, but big firms who might be cutting back on their HR departments and their total team,
Yep.
there's opportunity to come and do consulting one-on-one with small businesses. And there is a huge demand from small businesses who are overwhelmed by this technology and want the ability to implement it, but don't know where to begin. So if you're
Absolutely.
struggling to find a contract, you should be investing this time right now to go and pick. I would pick one or two really useful tools. Like I love the voice agents. I think that they're a great tool that so many people can get value. And it doesn't take much for you to become an expert on a voice agent and how to connect it with an MCP server to be able to help people connect a voice agent to their individual CRM, maybe to do there's a whole slew of what the world is endless of what you could do, right?
Yeah.
And it's very easy for you to come out and do one-on-one consulting while you maybe look for a bigger client for a longer term project, struggling to find a job. I would hope my internet would freeze right as I said this, but I think it did. Am I still
No,
here?
I think you're good.
Kasim?
Go. You lagged for a minute there, for a second there, but you're good. Yeah.
But this is a tremendous opportunity for anyone who's struggling to find their next contract to reinvent your skills, to go back and become an AI expert because it's only been around for a couple of years. So even the most tested, tried and tested experts have 3 years of a head start on you. You can
Yes.
easily catch up, easily, easily. And if you're out of a contract, you've got the time, and there's no excuse not to invest it in learning and understanding how you can pick a niche, whether it's accountants, whether it's doctors, whether it's construction workers, pick a niche, figure out how you can solve a problem that is universal, and go and get on the phone and start offering, hey, landscapers, would it be helpful if I could create a voice agent that would do outbound calling for you?
Yeah.
Like that's just one example. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
there's a ton of things that you could do out there for that. And I'm telling you, the technology is to the point where we had a client go, "Oh my God," and like burst into laughter with how incredible the technology was.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
with that, we are over time. Thank you again, Kasim, and thank you everyone for taking time out of your schedule. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. What's our next session, Kasim?
I can check on the website. Give me a second, please. So our next session is drumroll. It's on the 10th of February.
And what's the topic?
The topic is mastering RRSPs, TFSAs, and corporate investment strategies.
It is that time of year, folks. So I know that that's a popular one usually. So if
Yeah.
you're not sure where to put your money, come and we'll be back to the normal accounting script in 2 weeks.